Stamp mills would have been the most common means of processing gold ore here in Juneau. They were very widespread. This is something that every mine really would have used from one point to another. Whether it's a little mine or a large mine, they would have pretty much all used these. The larger stamp mills are really just the same thing you see here, but a whole lot bigger. This one is a pretty small stamp mill. We like to call this the Home Depot of stamp mills, okay? This is nothing compared to the larger industrial ones used by, for instance, the Treadwell mine. They were the largest user of stamp mills here. They use larger industrial ones, and they have as many as 650 stamp mills here at the one location, and they were just straight across the channel from us on Douglas Island. But this one is pretty small. This one is about a third the size. Those industrial ones would be about double the height. Those had 5 stamps. This one only has 3. It's pretty rare for 3 stamps, and it was pretty uncommon in its time. But the biggest difference is the weight. So each one of these stamps here weighs about 250 to 300 pounds, whereas the stamps on the industrial ones would weigh up to 1,500 pounds. So quite a big weight difference there, and that's the main thing. But this one's pretty special. This was operated by John Peterson along with his wife Mary and his daughters Irma and Margaret, and they would run this mill from around 1900 to about 1916 when John passed away. After John's passing, the women continued operating and were very successful and became known as the New Age women for being women miners. It was unheard of for women to be involved in mining at that time, as it was just a very labor-intensive job and it was considered man's work. That's just kind of how it was during that time. But something I'll point out about the Petersons, which is amazing, is, being a smaller operation, they just couldn't afford certain pieces of equipment and processing that would have streamlined their operation. They actually did everything by hand, which is incredible to think about. They would shovel ore into the back of the hopper here. There's a slot here where they'd feed it in. They'd shovel that ore down. This machine will crush that ore into a sand-like consistency, and as that sand comes up the screen, they'll gather it up and they would pan it out by hand to retrieve their gold. Very labor-intensive job. Takes a lot of patience to be able to do that. They're able to do that and be pretty successful, thanks in part to what they had called high-grade ore. High-grade ore is considered 1 ton of ore that produces 1 ounce of gold. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So out of every ton of ore they could produce, they'd get 1 ounce of gold recovered. That's unheard of. That is really, really good, and that really helped them out. And they became pretty successful. But regardless of the size of the stamp mill, whether it's a little one like this or the larger industrial ones, they work pretty much the same way. They're powered by a water wheel, and this flywheel will rotate, and as it does, it'll rotate these X-shaped pieces called cams. These cams will hit and lift the stamp, as you can see right here. This one's near the top of its rotation. And as it completes its rotation forward and down again, it will release this stamp, dropping it back down. They're very simple machines. They just lift and drop the stamps, which crushes down the ore. Now this one's pretty old. She's well over 100 years old. The wood's been replaced, but this is all original. But she still works pretty well, so we'll fire it up to you guys and we'll see how it works. And fair warning, you guys might want to take a couple of big steps back. Sometimes on rainy days you get a lot of rain that kind of blows in there, and it likes to splash piece. So it's our newest water piece. So what you guys are seeing is about 30 stamps a minute. In their prime, they would have ran these about 100 stamps a minute, about 3 times as fast. These would be very, very loud, being metal on metal and metal on rock contact all the time. But we've got some pads on ours to help keep the noise down, to help preserve the shoes. Now these would typically be run 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They'd only shut these down 2 days out of the entire year. That'd be for Christmas and the 4th of July. On those 2 days, it was said it was so quiet in Juneau that the kids couldn't sleep. They were so used to the noise that these stamp mills produced. Without it, became, it was like white noise to them. Without it, they couldn't sleep. So their parents would actually go and they would bang pots and pans together to get their kids to fall asleep. I know it sounds crazy, but it's not even one of the parts I made up, okay? These are a pretty big part of Juneau's history, and we're very lucky to have this one. There's really not many left in this good of shape. We're pretty glad to have her. In 2015, the Kensington Mine, which is the massive mine here in the area, donated some gold-bearing ore. They had a special ceremony for her, putting her back in service, and she did her job and crushed ore for the first time in nearly 100 years. You guys have any questions?